Welcome back, MTG Joe here, brewing a new deck. So the last time we played the Naya Giants deck, although we lost our games, the card I was really impressed with was Tectonic Giant. I think the only downside with it is it doesn't have haste, but if your opponent targets it with a spell, you get to basically get card advantage or deal damage. When it attacks, it's like a mini Inferno Titan, being able to deal 3 damage to your opponent or draw you some cards. So I wanted to throw together kind of a more Rakdos, hasty, discardy, mid-range shell. So this is the first take. I played a couple of games, been tweaking the numbers, but it'll probably change towards the end of the video, so I'll post the final deck list that we settle on the YouTube upload. But for the starting point, what we're trying to do is leverage somewhat similar to the Rakdos Cleave decks. We're not playing Rotting Regisaur. It's not that good against Teferi's bouncing it all the time, and I feel like you want haste in this format right now to really get in damage. It's also really bad against Brazen Borrower, which the Reclamation decks play a lot of. So in the 1-drop slot is Fervent Champion. We're playing 3 of them. Might want to go more. I was also thinking of Knight of Eben Legion, but it's a lot easier with all the enchantments going around to deal with it now. At least this has haste and can pressure early. Then we have Carnival, Carnage. So this is 2 of them trying out. The first half is 1 mana, and it can either shoot down like a Teferi after down ticks, any of the mono red creatures that come out on turn 1. And then if we draw it late game or against control, it has utility in terms of being a burn spell and discard. So a little bit flexible option there. In the 2-drop slot, we have Robber of Riches and Dreadhorde Butcher. So hasty threats that come down, that provide card advantage or scale and get larger and deal indirect damage. The one card that I want to see if Dreadhorde is better than is Stormfist Crusader, which would provide us card advantage. So I want to see how that plays out. 3 Kroxas, good card to force your opponent to discard, comes back after we expulge a bunch of resources. I'm playing 3 Scorching Dragonfires. So this is a flexible removal spell that can be useful against both control as well as aggro decks or creature decks, and the exile condition is actually very useful against like Annex and a whole bunch of creatures. Murderous Rider, 2 of, Bonecrusher Giant, 4 of, and then I'm playing 4 Tectonic Giants. Spawn of Mayhem might come down on the curve, play something else instead, but we'll see how it goes. It's a big body with evasion that can pressure. So we have a lot of incidental ways of dealing damage, like 3 damage from this, the stomp portion, the damage from this attacking, and then just the upkeep trigger. And then in the 6-drop slot, so we missed 5, go to 6, want to try out a couple Planeswalkers here. So the way I foresee this, and we'll see how it actually plays out in theory, is this would play out somewhat like a modern Jund deck where you go 1-for-1 them on resources, and then your top decks just are a lot more powerful or provide you utility. Some Lilianas, the down tick can also force your opponent to sack their Dream Trawlers. Chandra gets around counters and puts Emblem on it, and a couple of Embercleaves to cheat out wins. Mana base wise, we have the 4 temples. All our other lands come into play untapped with some Fabled Passages, which also help for the escape. Sideboard wise, we have 3 Redcap Melees, basically 1 mana removal spell in the mono red matchups, 4 Agonizing Remorse versus control-y matchups, 2 Grasps, 2 Lava Coils, the exile is important, Unchained Berserkers pro white, and it's a 3/1 when it attacks, Pharika's Liberation, another way to deal a Dream Trawler, and Ashiok for when we need to take care of opponents' graveyards. So we're going to fire this up. Because I haven't tested it too much, we're just going to play normal queue for now. And then if we find that it's actually winning games, then we can take it to ranked. So I'll probably play 1 or 2 best of 3s, and then we'll take it to the best of 1 ladder if we have time. And we go from there. Otherwise, going to be playing a couple brews. I have a blue-white affinity list that I ran into the other day that was really sweet. So I want to try to recreate that deck. And then pretty much from there, we'll play what comes up in the queue. We'll like to test a little bit more the Doom Foretold list as we have the tournament for the Mythic Points Championship on the 29th. So I'll probably get in a couple more games. That deck will be featured a little bit more on stream just in anticipation. I'm still working out the sideboard for that. So I want to get in some more reps there. But as always, if you're interested in any of my content, it is all archived on my YouTube channel, MTG_Joe, so you can catch it there. While you're there, if you can drop a like, comment, or subscribe, all are free and they do help out the channel a lot. And if you want to know when we're going live on Twitch, you can drop a follow, just click that button, it's free and it helps out the channel. So as we wait for our opponent, go from there. I actually haven't caught any of Worlds yet. The weird time zone difference hasn't really made me. I'm not really interested in draft so much, so if they're going to the constructed, but feel like it's a weird three-way triangle between blue-white control, Teamer Rec, and red deck wins, and then a couple fires in the one Jund player. Come on, opponent. Okay, so this hand's not going to work out. Keep this hand, put away an Embercleave. The nice thing is we get to shuffle it away. Okay, so it looks like it's a red deck on the play. So we're not going to show our opponent what we have yet. If they drop a Steamkin, then I'll Bonecrusher it. If they just drop like another Dork, then I'm going to rob her to get some card advantage. So Redcap is probably something we want to, or a robber is probably something we want to get rid of. Kind of wanted that land. So at combat, I'll Bonecrusher it. You know what, I probably should have just, it's a little cute there, but if they had like, what's it called, Infuriate, then I would have been punished. Robber doesn't really do much right now, so I think we just play this out. I think we need to try to get to Chandra, or even this Tech Giant, just to block. Torbrand is not pleasant. I think we're dead here. Alright, so not a good showing first. Redcap Melee, Lava Coils come in. Kroxa is probably... Yeah, so Spawn of Mayhem's a little bit of a liability. Murderous Rider's okay. Scorching Dragonfire. I think Robber on the play's fine. Carnival's fine. I think we cut the Lilianas because they can just go over top with Embercleave. And I think we shave one Kroxa down. We want more of a board presence. Chandra can wipe the board, so I don't mind that. That game they basically saw a land and a Bonecrusher, but mono red on the play when you miss a land drop. I'll keep this. So the best case is they miss a one drop. So I'm gonna Kroxa here because I want this to come down when they have two things on the board. And I'm gonna hold this back. It's a good blocker against this, so I'd force them to keep it back. So I can Murderous Rider their next threat, which I think we do. Okay, they don't have a Stomp either. So let's take Annex off. Chandra can clean up the tokens afterwards. and then this being a lifelinker is relevant. I'm just going to drop this down. And we'll attack in. Okay, they Torbrand. So I could Embercleave this next turn. So I think we hold back. Okay, so we'll just take the lifelink, play out Dreadhorde Butcher. With this blocking, it can shoot something. If they have Embercleave, then we're probably dead. So they're likely to block as such. So if they throw the Embercleave on this, this dies first, so then I can... They actually do that. With the Embercleave damage, it's too much. Too conservative. I don't even know if we're too conservative there. But Torbrand tends to screw up the math a bit. There might have not been a way to block, because if we attack in anyways, we gain the 2 life. With the Embercleave turn, they would have been able to play around it. I'm going to keep this, but I'm actually going to lead with the Swamp as opposed to the Temple. In case they're mono red, I can take out their 1-drop and it clears a spot for Robber to come through. Okay, blue-white control. That's actually really good for us because that lets us draw a card next turn. So we'll take advantage of this. I think we keep the Dreadhorde and get rid of the Scorching Dragonfire. It's just another threat that they have to deal with. I can't instant speed this if they down tick to Fairy anyways, so just play the Scry. Okay, I can second Robber. Or I can just take this chance to Carnival them, get 2 cards out of their hand, and then attack to Fairy down. Which I actually think I like that better. It makes these Robbers a little worse in the immediate, but it forces cards out of their hand. If they want to bounce with Teferi, they have to kill it now. And then next turn I can also Embercleave. Actually, I can't while Teferi's out. This plays around better if they have a board wipe. They have to 1-for-1. So they can still have a board wipe here. Okay, they just absorb there. So since they absorbed, then I'm gonna Robber. I feel like this matchup's probably a lot better. Next turn we try to force their hand and then just drop Chandra. If the playing player has more cards, so even with Chandra they won't. So here this is pretty good if they hold up a counter spell and they can't do anything. Because now I just put a clock on them with the Chandra. Even if they Dream Trawler, I can Embercleave over top it. Okay, so they have the Conqueror's Death for Chandra. So I do this. Embercleave up this robber. And now if they wipe the board, they're dead, and they get one turn after this to try to kill us. So unless they can gain some life and clear our board, which no such card exists, they're dead. So that felt really good. Agonizing Remorse comes in. Unchained Berserker. I actually like Ashiok in this matchup. And I think we'll... I don't know if we want Pharika's Liberation. Try it out. Scorching Dragonfire I don't think is that great. Kroxa's fine. I'm going to get rid of the Spawn of Mayhems. They just get bounced by Teferi. And I actually don't normally like Embercleave in this matchup because Teferi just stops it. I think we try it out like that. The Grasps just get rid of Teferi. We don't know if they're playing the Pegasus. But we have other ways. Just like throw a bunch of damage. And then this is unblockable. These is the top end. So we'll run it like that. They'll probably go upwards of 4 to 5 board wipes. But if they're playing Shatter the Sky, we'll have stuff that can get upwards of 4 toughness to redraw us cards. I think we keep this. Go Fervent on 1, Kroxa on 2. In the first build, I had 2 Agonizing Remorse main and no Fervent. But I think I prefer the Fervent because it gives us a play on 1. They don't have white, which is actually pretty interesting. I'm going to discard a good card. Next turn I'm probably going to drop the Temple of Malice because I'm just going to Bonecrusher to shock them. I'm playing Giant Killer. So we'll set up Scry. We drew a few more lands than we'd want, so... Carnival Carnage is something that's interesting. We could try to force them to discard some cards. Our clock hasn't been as fast as last game. So they birth the Malides. That's fine. Because the thing is, if they have Dovin's Veto, I doubt they bring in Dovin's Veto against us, but if they do, I'd rather they counter this Bonecrusher so I can get Carnage off. And then we want to start filling our graveyard for this Kroxa to come back. probably get a swamp here. Oh, we're still in main. Aether Gust. Do we want that on top? I think so. It forces them to have to play around that. Okay, so they play a second double blue. That means they have some heavy white cards. That also means that they don't have Absorb out. Can be another Gust. Okay, it's just a fairy. So let's get the cards out of their hand. And just play out this dude. No attacks. So they got rid of a Banishing Light and a Shatter the Sky. So I think here, let's just take out Teferi. It's not really harm in attacking, so maybe they think we have a pump spell. And because they have Shatter the Sky, I'm going to play Bonecrusher Giant. Would give us a card draw. Need some more cards in our grave. Pretty weak to Dream Trawler here. Ah, that's bad. Because that doesn't even allow us to... Tech Giant is sweet. So let's just play this out. I'd like to draw like Chandra, Liliana, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so I can pay the tax. Ooh, that's a knight. So they're going to get the fairy back. They do get a bounce. Okay, they omen. I'm going to hold the land in hand right now. Make it seem like we have something. We curve out at 6 anyways. So opponent's digging here. So they probably bounce Tech Giant. If they have a board wipe, then they bounce one of their Omens of the Sea. Okay, so they're just plussing here. You have an effect for it. A lot of lands. still one off, which is kind of annoying. And we haven't drawn our castle. And they keep one on top, so it might be Trawler. Okay, they blow a minus here. Okay, they do have Arcan. Oh my, okay, so this one's over. They're gonna make too much. It's pretty bad versus Teferi. Let's bring in some Noxious Grasps. Because like all these things either have haste or they're adventures, so we get them back. That also lowers our curve a bit and allows us to play around the instant speed. Board wipes. Flooded out a bit there, didn't get any of our card advantage. That Aether Gust that turn hurt us. Meant we were playing behind. So we really want a hand with like Robber or a Dreadhorde Butcher. Even though it gets bounced by Teferi and resets the counters, it can still put enough pressure on our opponent. It's kind of nice though, even unranked, it's pretty much all tier decks right now, so you can get some good testing in with like legit decks as opposed to just playing against like random stuff. It's funny because the rank ladder I've been playing against more brews than anything. If we had the lands, that would be a keep. Yeah, I'll keep this hand. So I'm going to put the mountain away. Reason being, this can make us get the black source that we need. For Ashiok, and then it could start exiling opponent's graveyard. So I want to get this going now because it'll get bigger. Kroxa could come down next turn. And I'm actually going to target ourselves with Ashiok the first time. That'll put enough cards for us to get back a Kroxa. Okay, they get rid of a second opt. So just get a swamp here. This can take down Teferi, thankfully. So I'm actually going to play out both because I can play second Kroxa this turn. It's more mana efficient for us to do it this way. And this forces another card out of their hand. They bin another Teferi. This is Shatter. Gets us one card away from doing so. So it's 2 more points of damage. So we're going to mill ourselves. We hit our other Kroxa. And we get to exile their graveyard. Mana efficiency wise, I'm just going to put that away. Next turn we're getting a Kroxa back. Ha! They can't search. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This can be Aether Gust. It is. That's fine. I think we mill ourselves again. Actually, we probably should have just put it into the graveyard. Oh no, it goes to the bottom of our library. Okay, they got Trawler. You know what, I'm probably just dead at this point then. This does get the last card out of their hand. So we might still be able to race them. See if they attack us or if they go after Ashiok. They go after Ashiok. Ooh, you have reach. That's fine. The nice thing is this can't get Conqueror's Death. So I'm going to do this so that way when I attack with robbers, trigger first. They take 3 damage off that. And they'll just block. Maybe I should have drawn main. They go to Fairy. That might be enough to take us out now. Because I get the extra card in hand now. And I should have drawn before. Because now I take an extra point of damage, which can be relevant in the race. Yep. Heavy punished. So we'll play Kroxa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This gets the last card out of their hand and lets us get rid of their Dream Trawler. I needed to do this so I can get rid of Trawler. And then we'll pass the turn. Kroxa's been carrying us. They have a board wipe here. Aether Gust. That's fine. No point of attacking. Just gonna cast the Kroxa here. Deals another 3 damage to them. I've gotten quite a few casts out of this Kroxa. 15 cards in exile. So let's go Carnage here. Play this out, and then we'll just attack in. They can double block. Surprised they did this now, because this lets me kill the other soldier. I'm just trying to get enough cards in my graveyard to be able to Kroxa back again. Sweet. Second robber. They had the board wipe. Omen of the Sea. That still puts a card in their hand. Get a land and shatter the sky, which is not really something we're interested in. So I'm going to do this now. Okay, that gives us a land for Kroxa next turn, so we can get it back a 4th time. These Malides walls have actually been doing a pretty decent job. Tef 2, the retefening. So the cool thing is I can actually robber, and Kroxa this turn. We'll get another mountain. So playing these out. I want to get to Fairy out of the way. At the very least we get a couple more card draws. Ooh, Gadwick. So Gadwick can draw us a card. So X2. We're the control player now. Sweet. Noxious Grasp can get rid of Teferi. And we have Dreadhorde General. Okay, so let's go Noxious Grasp here. I don't want to commit more to the board because of a board wipe. I think here we Kroxa. Because even if they wipe, we can get it back, but it's worse against like a Lily. I want to try to keep the Liliana for when they Trawler. At least this gets a card out of their hand as well. opt. They take 3 damage from that. Yeah, it's not bad. We have Murderous Rider to try to shoot down a Dream Trawler. Okay, that's a target here. Their shields are down, so I can go, that's 5, 9. For land, I get to play out Liliana in that. Okay, so I do Liliana here. Play out the zombie. They can make the token here, but I get to draw a card. And then every creature that dies, or spell that dies, we just get closer to being able to play another Kroxa out. Kroxa is definitely MVP here. Okay, they conquers death. Means we're erasing the Dream Trawler. Or we're not. We're also at 7 life, so we need to be mindful. We took a lot of damage from our lands. We can play this out. That lets us Bonecrusher the following turn. This can give us some life link for this turn. No, but the stomp costs more next turn, so I think we just stomp them. Oh, actually no, the stomp, we should have done it at our end step. I made an error there. So we should have Murderous Ridered, but they had to find a board wipe that turn. Alright, sweet. Took down mono white. Deck felt pretty reasonable there. Got some prizes, got some packs. Another Heliod for the collection. So I'm going to reset Arena really quick, and then we'll fire up one best of one just to test out the deck there. Been going for about 45 minutes, so client starts to lag a little. For those who are just tuning in, we are playing a Rakdos mid-range deck. A bunch of powerful kind of 2, 3, 4 drops. All kind of meshed together. Some Embercleaves on the top. So got card advantage through Robber of Riches, Tectonic Giant. Discard through Kroxa and Carnival. And then you got like Disruption removal and a number of threats. So we lost pretty handily to mono red, but we were able to take down blue white. So we'll fire it up for a third match. Figure numbers will be down a little today with Worlds going on. Sounds fine. Opponent goes first. We can go offense, defense, depending. So blue-white, we're going to go Kroxa first. Embercleave's a bit weaker in this matchup. Would have really loved to have you down the previous turn. But this is fine, because if they Teferi next turn, I can Fervent Champion, Shock. So if they down tick, I can take out Teferi. Teferi. Down tick. Be greedy. No? So we're going to play out both here. So unfortunately with Teferi out I can't technically Embercleave next turn. Elite Guard Mage. It might be a concession to all the mono red. Robber's actually good here because it can give us some card advantage. I'm just going to take this out of the air and then we can take the fairy down. Or take it down to 1. Next turn I can shock it if need be. Still think it's right to take the fairy down because that it allows us to better play around instant speed board wipes. Deputy. So I think what we do here, we shock to fairy. Play this out and play out Robber, attack with Robber, get the, they have something like an instant speed? Brazen Borer. Okay, so this is more blue-white mid-range than it is control. This might be blue-white Thassa. Because what I would have liked to do was, okay, they have Gadwick. Okay, I got Tech Giant. Problem is I'm one short of Embercleaving here. Let's see if they block stupidly. Okay. It's mainly to get Gatwick off the board. Because with Brazen Borer, they can instant speed tap our stuff down. Yeah, it's blue-white Thassa. So we probably should have ignored Teferi in this matchup. Probably just going to gain life or scry. Kind of regret spending the resources there, going after the Teferi. Okay, Scorching Dragonfire. So I think we just forced through some damage. They might want to reset the deputy. Oh, that gets rid of Embercleave. Can get back their Gatwick. So we probably want to save this Dragonfire for it. And they have this Borrower that could come in. It's a free attack, I don't know why. Unless they want to reset the deputy. Yeah, they missed out 2 points of damage. So I think what we do is Tech Giant, or just do Murderous Rider and Thing and then save that for the following turn. That might be the most mana efficient. Just play it out like this. If they want to trade the Robber for the Charming Prince, I'll do it. Okay, so that means Gatwick's not coming. Ooh, that does put on Thassa though. So they could hit me for 9 this turn. So I'm going to throw this in front. Doesn't really make much sense doing offense defense there. So just get the cards out of our hand. So I can play this out now before they get to Fairy out. I can Scorching Dragonfire on the Gatwick. Oh, they can just get another Gatwick back. Oh no, it enters with as a 4/4. I think I just lost this. They go to Fairy actually. Let's get rid of Deputy, gets back our Dreadhorde. Surprised they went with that. We're playing Mass Manipulation? That's weird. Certainly would not expect Mass Manipulation out of this deck. Probably dead here. They can just keep flying over us and that the Fairy can bounce our token. Plus Thassa can tap down our stuff. Yeah, we weren't playing around a Mass Manipulation. Everything else in the deck seemed reasonable. Oh, they bounced their thing to get it reset. So I gotta do that. That makes it so we can play Kroxa next turn. Their hand's pretty full at this point. So I'm actually gonna do this first because it would either Brazen Borer or get them to tap it with Thassa. Okay, cool. I'm basically just trying to get them to use spells here. The Fairy can bounce it, takes a devotion off the battlefield. It's going to be mana efficient this turn. Play out the Robber. It also has reach, so it can block the Brazen Borer. Okay, they just have another borrower. They can drop both of them. Oh yeah, I have to blah. Okay. Doesn't matter here. Teferi bounces it. We tapped out. They attack with everything. Interesting deck. Wasn't going to play around the mass manipulation for sure, but... Okay, so we took down blue-white control. I think this deck's got some legs against the control matchups. Probably is fairly decent against Temur Reclamation, especially post-board. Obviously some areas to kind of play around, but pretty sweet overall. Could probably tune it a bit more to see with that. I did like Tech Giant was kind of slow in this build, so maybe we cut it in favor of more like spawns. Kroxa felt pretty reasonable. I think we maybe just cut Tech Giant and either play what's the dude? The Eidolon? No. Graveyard. The 2-drop. This guy, Myra Trident. Play a couple of those instead because it puts cards in our graveyard for Kroxa, so it makes it a little bit more reasonable. Even like Carnival, Carnage felt pretty good, just attacking their hand. We never really got a chance to attack with the Tech Giant without its haste. I think the way to play this is with Rhythm of the Wilds. You play Rhythm, you play this, give it haste, it attacks that turn. So that'll probably be like the next deck we kind of explore with Tech Giant in it. I want to try to break this card, but I don't think this is the shelf for it. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thanks for those who stopped by. If you missed any part of this or any of my other videos, you can catch it all on my YouTube channel, MTG_Joe. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.